Hello everyone. Welcome back to English Learner Classes. I am so happy you are here with us today. We have a really important topic for you, something that confuses almost every English learner in the world. And today, we are going to fix that confusion once and for all. We are talking about the words for and since. Two small words, but two words that cause big problems for learners every single day.
That is so true. I have met so many learners, beginners, intermediate students, even advanced speakers, and almost all of them at some point make mistakes with for and since. So if you have been confused about this, please do not feel bad. You are not alone. Today, we are going to explain everything from the very beginning in simple, clear words. No difficult grammar terms, no complicated explanations, just simple English that you can understand and use right away.
That's right. And by the end of this episode, you will know exactly when to use for and when to use since. You will understand the difference clearly. You will see real examples. You will learn the most common mistakes people make, and we will give you some very easy tricks to remember the rules forever. So stay with us all the way to the end.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so first, the big question. What is the difference between for and since? Both words are used with time. Both of them answer the question, how long has something been happening? But they answer that question in different ways. For is used when you talk about a duration. That means a length of time, an amount of time. How many hours, days, weeks, months, or years something has been happening. Since is used when you talk about a starting point. That means the specific moment when something began, a date, a day, a year, or a time when something started.
Let me make that even simpler. Think of it this way. If someone asks you, how long have you been studying English? You have two ways to answer. You can say, I have been studying English for 3 years. 3 years is the duration. It is the length of time. That is why we use for. Or you can say, I have been studying English since 2021. 2021 is the starting point. That is the year I started. That is why we use since. Both sentences mean the same thing. Both say that I started in 2021 and I am still studying now. But we use different words because we are talking about time in a different way.
Exactly. And this is the most important idea in the whole episode. So let me say it one more time very clearly. For tells us how long. Since tells us when it started. If you remember only one thing from today, remember that. For is for the length of time, since is for the starting point.
Now let's look at for more closely. When we use for, we put a time duration after it, something that shows an amount or length of time. Here are some examples of what comes after for. For a minute, for 2 hours, for 3 days, for a week, for 5 months, for 2 years, for a long time, for a while, for many years, for ages, for 6 weeks, for a few days. Do you see the pattern? All of these tell you how much time something lasted. They are all amounts of time. They are all durations, and they all go with for.
Now here are some full sentences using for. Listen carefully. I waited for 40 minutes. That means the waiting lasted 40 minutes. She lived in Paris for 6 years. That means she spent 6 years living in Paris. We have been married for 20 years. That means our marriage has lasted 20 years. He studied for 3 hours before the exam. That means the studying time was 3 hours. We have known each other for a long time. That means our friendship has lasted a long time.
Now, notice something very important. For can be used with many different tenses. It's very flexible. Look at these sentences. I waited for 2 hours. This is past simple. The waiting is finished. She has lived here for 5 years. This is present perfect. She started 5 years ago and still lives here now. I will study for 2 hours tonight. This is future. The studying hasn't happened yet. So for works in the past, the present, and the future. It just tells you how long something lasts or lasted. That's all.
One more small point about for. Sometimes in informal spoken English, people leave out the word for. For example, someone might say, I waited 2 hours, without saying for. And in casual conversation, that sounds fine. But in writing, in tests, in formal English, it's always better to include for. So say, I waited for 2 hours. It's cleaner and more correct.
Now, let's look at since. Since is used when you want to give a specific starting point, a particular moment in the past when something began. And the key thing is, the action or situation started at that point, and it's still continuing right now. It has not stopped yet. Here are some examples of what comes after since. Since Monday, since last year, since 2018, since January, since I was a child, since this morning, since yesterday, since last week, since the beginning. All of these are specific points in time, a day, a year, a month, a moment, not an amount of time, a starting point.
Now here's some full sentences using since. Listen carefully. I have lived here since 2019. I started living here in 2019, and I still live here now. She has worked at that company since last March. She started in March, and she still works there now. We have been friends since we were children. We became friends when we were children, and we are still friends now. He hasn't eaten anything since this morning. He last ate this morning, and he still hasn't eaten again. I have loved music since I was very young. It started when I was young, and it's still true now.
Now here is something very important about since. Did you notice something about all those sentences? They all used have or has with the past participle. I have lived. She has worked. We have been. He hasn't eaten. I have loved. This is called the present perfect tense. And when you use since to talk about a situation that is still continuing, you almost always use the present perfect tense. Why? Because since connects the past to the present. Something started in the past and it is still happening now. That connection from the past to the present is exactly what the present perfect tense is used for.
This is a rule that many learners miss, so let me say it clearly. When you use since, use have or has with the past participle. I have studied here since 2020. Correct. I study here since 2020. Wrong. No have, so it is incorrect. She has been sick since Monday. Correct. She is sick since Monday. Wrong. You need has been, not is. He hasn't slept since yesterday. Correct. He doesn't sleep since yesterday. Wrong. For does not have this same rule. For works with many tenses, but since almost always needs the present perfect.
Now let us compare for and since side by side. This will make the difference very clear. I will give you pairs of sentences. Both sentences in each pair have the same meaning, but one uses for and one uses since. I have worked here for 5 years. I have worked here since 2020. Same meaning. For gives the duration. Since gives the starting year.
I have known her for a long time. I have known her since high school. Same meaning. For gives how long. Since gives when it started.
He has been sick for 3 days. He has been sick since Tuesday. Same meaning. For gives the number of days. Since gives the day it started.
We haven't spoken for months. We haven't spoken since our argument. Same meaning. For gives the duration. Since gives the event that started the silence.
Do you see it clearly now? Both words describe the same situation, but for focuses on the length of the time and since focuses on the moment it started. You choose which one to use depending on what information you want to give.
Now, let us talk about mistakes. This is a very important part of today's episode because knowing the mistakes will help you avoid making them yourself. These are the most common errors that learners make with for and since.
Mistake number 1, using since with a duration. Wrong, I have lived here since 5 years. Correct, I have lived here for 5 years. 5 years is an amount of time. It is a duration. It is not a starting point. So you must use for. Saying since 5 years is never correct in English. Many learners make this mistake because in their own language the grammar works differently. But in English, since never comes before an amount of time.
Mistake number 2, using for with a starting point. Wrong, I studied English for 2018. Correct, I studied English since 2018. 2018 is a year. It is a specific moment in time, a starting point. So you must use since. For 2018 sounds very strange to a native speaker. For needs an amount of time after it, not a date or year.
Mistake number 3, forgetting to use present perfect with since. Wrong, I live here since 2020. Correct, I have lived here since 2020. This is a very common mistake. When you use since to talk about something that started in the past and is still happening now, you need the present perfect. You need have or has before the main verb. Without it, the sentence is grammatically wrong in English.
Mistake number 4, confusing since with ago. Many learners mix these up. They say things like, I started this job since 3 years. That is wrong for 2 reasons. First, 3 years is a duration, not a starting point. Second, the word they are looking for is ago. Wrong, I started this job since 3 years. Correct, I started this job 3 years ago. Ago goes with simple past. It means that amount of time has passed since the event happened. I started this job 3 years ago. I moved here 2 months ago. She left 10 minutes ago. So remember, ago goes with simple past, since goes with present perfect.
Mistake number 5, using since for a situation that has already ended. Since is only used when the situation started in the past and is still continuing now. If the situation is finished, you cannot use since. Wrong, I lived in London since 2015 to 2019. This is wrong because I no longer live in London. The situation ended in 2019. Correct, I lived in London from 2015 to 2019. Correct, I lived in London for 4 years. When the situation is over and finished, use from and to or use for. Do not use since.
Mistake number 6, putting since before a number and time word together. Wrong, since 3 days, since 2 weeks, since 5 months. Correct, for 3 days, for 2 weeks, for 5 months. Anytime you have a number plus a time word, like 3 days or 2 weeks or 5 months, that is always a duration. Always use for, never use since with those combinations.
These 6 mistakes cover the most common problems learners have with for and since. If you can avoid these, you will already be much better than most learners when it comes to for and since.
Now, let us give you some memory tricks. These are simple tools to help you remember when to use for and when to use since, so you never have to guess again.
Memory trick number 1. Think about the question you are answering. If you are answering how long, use for. If you are answering when did it start, use since. That simple question is the fastest way to choose the right word in any situation. Memory trick number 2. The replacement test. Take your sentence and try replacing the blank with a year like 2020. Does it sound correct? Then use since. Now try replacing the blank with 3 years. Does that sound correct? Then use for. For example, I have been here blank a long time. Can you say since a long time? No, that sounds wrong. Can you say for a long time? Yes, that sounds perfect. So use for.
I have been here blank 2015. Can you say for 2015? No, that sounds wrong. Can you say since 2015? Yes, that sounds correct. So use since. Memory trick number 3. Think of a dot and an arrow. Imagine a timeline. On the left side is the past. On the right side is now. Since is the dot. The dot marks the exact place where something started. That is the starting point. For is the arrow. The arrow shows the length of time between the dot and now. That is the duration. Every time you see since, picture a dot on a timeline. Every time you see for, picture the length of an arrow. Memory trick number 4. If it is a number, use for. Anytime you see a number before a time word, 2 hours, 5 days, 3 years, it is always a duration. Always use for, no exceptions. Numbers with time words always go with for.
Now let's look at some real-life conversations. Hearing for and since in natural sentences will help you feel comfortable using them yourself.
Imagine you meet an old friend on the street. Oh, wow, I haven't seen you for ages. I know, it's been so long. I haven't been to this area since last summer. Ages is a duration, how long since we saw each other, so for. Last summer is the starting point, when I last came here, so since.
Imagine someone asks about your job. How long have you been working there? I've been there for about 3 years now, since early 2022, actually. 3 years is the duration, so for. Early 2022 is the starting point, so since.
Imagine talking about your health. I've had this headache since this morning and it just won't go away. I've taken 2 tablets, but I've been in pain for hours now. This morning is when it started, so since. Hours is how long, so for.
Imagine talking about a hobby. I've been playing guitar since I was 12 years old, so that's almost 15 years now. I've been practicing for about 2 hours every day since the beginning of this year. Since I was 12, the starting point of playing, so since. 2 hours, how long the practice session lasts, so for. Since the beginning of this year, the starting point of the daily routine, so since.
Imagine talking about a relationship. I've known my best friend since we were in school together. We've been friends for over 20 years. Since we were in school, the starting point of the friendship, so since. Over 20 years, that's how long the friendship has lasted, so for.
As you can see, for and since appear all the time in everyday conversations. They're not unusual or difficult grammar. They're part of normal everyday English, and the more you practice hearing and using them, the more natural they will feel.
Let's do a quick practice together. I'll give you a sentence with a blank. Try to answer before we give the answer.
Ready? Let's go.
She has been waiting blank 2 hours. For or since?
2 hours is a duration, an amount of time, so the answer is for. She has been waiting for 2 hours.
They have been married blank 1998. For or since?
1998 is a year, a specific starting point, so the answer is since. They have been married since 1998.
I haven't eaten blank this morning. For or since?
This morning is a specific time, the starting point of not eating, so the answer is since. I haven't eaten since this morning.
He studied blank 3 hours before the exam. For or since?
3 hours is a duration, a number with the time word, so the answer is for. He studied for 3 hours before the exam.
She has worked at this office blank she graduated from university. For or since?
This one is a little tricky because there's no date or number, but graduating from university is still a specific moment in time. It's a starting point. And the word she tells us this is a clause, since she graduated, which describes when it started. So the answer is since. She has worked here since she graduated from university.
And this shows us something important. Since does not always have to be followed by a date or year. It can also be followed by a full clause, like since she graduated, since we met, since I moved here. As long as that clause describes a starting point, since is correct.
Now, let's go a little deeper for our intermediate learners. There are a few extra things about for and since that are very useful to know.
The first extra thing is ever since. You can put the word ever before since to make the meaning stronger and more emotional. She moved to a different city and I've missed her ever since. He tried coffee for the first time when he was young and he's loved it ever since. Ever since is very natural in English and native speakers use it a lot. It adds feeling and emphasis to the sentence.
The second extra thing is that since can also mean because. This is a completely different meaning. It has nothing to do with time. When since is used to mean because, it connects two ideas. Since you are already here, let's begin. That means because you are already here, let's begin. Since you mentioned it, I should tell you something. That means because you mentioned it, I should tell you something. So, when you hear since at the beginning of a sentence and it is followed by a reason, it means because, not a starting point in time. Context will help you understand which meaning is being used.
The third extra thing is about for in the past. For is not only used for situations that are still continuing, it can also be used to describe how long something lasted in the past when that thing is now finished. She studied medicine for 6 years and then became a doctor. The studying is finished, but for still tells us how long it lasted. He worked in that factory for 30 years before he retired. The working is finished, but for tells us the duration. This is different from since, which is only used when the situation is still continuing now. For is more flexible and can be used for finished situations too.
The fourth extra thing is about how long questions. When someone asks you how long, they're asking for a duration, so your answer will almost always use for. How long have you been here? I have been here for 2 hours. How long have you known her? I have known her for 10 years. How long did you wait? I waited for about an hour. Whenever you see the question, how long, think for.
Now let us look at some common phrases using for and since that you will hear all the time in English. Phrases with for that you must know. For a while, for ages, for a long time, for years, for months, for weeks, for hours, for a moment, for a bit, for the time being, for now. Phrases with since that you must know. Since then, ever since when, since the beginning, since the start, since last week, since last year, since this morning, since yesterday.
And here are some very natural sentences using these phrases. I haven't seen him for ages. That means it has been a very long time. We have been waiting for a while now. A period of time has passed. Things have changed since then, since a particular moment in the past. She has been different ever since, from that moment until now. Since when have you been interested in cooking? From what starting point?
Learning these common phrases will help you sound much more natural. You will hear native speakers using these all the time. So the more familiar they become, the easier it will be to use them yourself.
Before we wrap up, let us also quickly clear up the difference between since and ago one more time, because it causes a lot of confusion. Ago means a certain amount of time has passed before now. It is used with simple past tense. I moved here 3 years ago. Simple past. 3 years have passed since the moving happened. She called me 10 minutes ago. Simple past. 10 minutes have passed since the call.
Since is used when the situation started at a point in the past and is still happening now. It is used with present perfect tense, have or has plus past participle. I have lived here since 3 years ago. You can even combine them like this. 3 years ago tells you when, and since tells you it is still continuing. But the simpler version is just, I have lived here for 3 years, or I have lived here since 2022. Both are cleaner.
The key difference, ago, is for finished actions in the past. Since is for actions that started in the past and continue now. I saw her 2 days ago. Saw is past simple, finished. I haven't seen her since Monday. Haven't seen is present perfect. The situation of not seeing her is still continuing.
All right, we are coming to the end of today's episode. Let us do our final summary so everything is fresh in your mind.
For is used for a duration, a length of time, how long something has been happening. Examples, for 2 hours, for a week, for many years, for a long time. For can be used with past, present, and future tenses.
Since is used for a starting point, a specific moment when something began. Examples, since Monday, since 2019, since she was young, since last summer. Since is almost always used with the present perfect tense, have or has plus past participle.
The most important mistakes to avoid. Do not say since with a duration like 5 years. Do not say for with a starting point like 2020. Do not forget to use present perfect with since. Do not confuse since with ago. Do not use since for situations that are already finished.
And the best memory trick of all, just ask yourself 2 questions. Am I saying when it started? Then use since. Am I saying how long it has been? Then use for. Those 2 questions will always give you the right answer.
Practice is the most important thing. After this episode, try to write 5 sentences about your own life using for and since. Talk about your job, your family, your hobbies, your city. Use real information from your own life. That's the fastest way to make this grammar feel natural.
And don't be afraid of making mistakes. Every mistake you make is teaching you something. Every time you get it wrong and then correct it, you're getting stronger. That's how language learning works. So keep going, keep trying, keep practicing.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us at English Learner Classes. It really means everything to us that you're here. If this episode helps you, please share it with a friend who's also learning English, and make sure you come back for our next episode.
We'll see you next time. Keep learning, keep growing. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.